What's going on, guys? Fabrice here. So today we'll have a list review from the Paris Masters, which is actually the last event from the EML series from the 2019. This is the final, and we just have 6 teams there, each consisting of 5 players, and they will play the matches between each other. Everyone will play everyone. This will be a very interesting to see how this fares. And as usual with my list review videos, I just wanted to pick few that I especially like. I wanted to pick, as usual, some fancy, interesting lists, but unfortunately there was only one. And I'm not going to talk about this list. I think the players from the event know which one I can talk about. In general, the lists are pretty boring and pretty standard. Nothing really interesting that I would consider also quite good. But there are lists that I would like to present to you because they just seem very competitive and strong. So let's take a look at the two. The first one is from TGA Play Team from Peter Folle. This is Vermin Swarm list. Bear in mind that this is played on the update before the last update, so it doesn't take into the consideration the last changes, which means that the Vermin Swarms list will get even better with this last update. So you can see the list on the screen. The interesting parts that I would like to point out are probably the Assassin, the Mechanists, which I would consider should appear in most of the lists now, and the Tyrant on the Vermin Guard Leader. So basically, what's the concept of this list? Here in Peter's list you have one block that is very hard to kill, because you can put the Grinder here, the Tyrant here with one uprollable that doesn't really hit hard but has a lot of combat resolution, and the BSB can go there, the Machinist can go there, the Assassin can go there. What I usually would prefer to have to do with this list is to have something like second block in core. Just because you see with the Litter, with the Grinder, with the Mechanists, with the Assassin, you just don't have enough spots in the first rank. So I would say that it is good to bring a second block that also will help with the scenarios. And maybe something like Grenadiers or bigger unit of Gutter Runners or the Plug Sensor Bearers as a secondary support unit. All 3 of those units will allow the Machinists and the Assassin to shoot after March, which I think is great. Also, I would probably give Assassin the Sling instead of the throwing weapons, because it's pretty unlikely that you will be in range of throwing weapons, and with slings you have actually the same range as the Machinist, so you can shoot from 18 inches and it's all fine. This is a very solid list in the sense that it has no easy targets to pick from. There is no Demon, there is no Bell, there is no Pendulum, so it's not that vulnerable to cannons. As it is still a rat list, it has to play in a pretty small bubble, so this is kind of disadvantage. The 18-inch leadership helps, but you don't really have that good leadership anyway, so you know you still have to play pretty close to each other. But you are generally not as bad as usually shooty rats can be at claiming scenarios, which is good, even though you don't have any rat ogres, which can be seen as a disadvantage. You still have a pretty solid center sculling unit in core. What I think could change from this list in the next update is just get the treadmills out of here and just bring like the Grenadiers or maybe Rat Ogres for scoring, or maybe the weapon teams, because the weapon teams start to look really interesting. Like the 2 Nafta throwers will now be 50 points cheaper as far as I remember than the Dreadmill, which is just hilarious. But I think that this list generally is a list that you don't want to, you don't like to play against. It has answers to everything. It has the cannon, the catapult combo, which is pretty interesting. You could nowadays aim for the double cannon build and just fill the role from the catapult by like globe launchers. But anyway, it's very hard to approach, and you usually just want to try to win the scenarios against that, because this is probably the weakest spot of the list. It cannot rush you pretty hard, so it's as every rat is not really mobile, So scenarios are really rough sometimes, but it's definitely very hard to get any cheap points out of this. The advantage of not having any things like the weapon teams or the global deals is that there are no easy points to pick. Like the weapon teams are usually pretty easy to pick. The dread mills are a bit less vulnerable, I'd say. But anyways, I think that lists like that are really good for the team tournaments because they are not risky at all. They will probably get something in the range of 8 to 14, 15, 16. It really depends on the scenario, in my opinion. Well, I'll be open about it, and I hope that Peter will not be offended. But well, everyone kind of knows that he's not the top player, but he's the top list builder. So every time I see an event that Peter attends, I search for his list as one of the first lists to look at, because he's really creative in list building, and I like to see his ideas. Unfortunately, the time is always an issue when you try to build new lists, so this is kind of an older list of his. He plays this for quite a while, but I still remember the list he played at ETC 2016 or ETC 2017. Just amazing stuff. So I always try to find out his new ideas, and I recommend to do that for all of you. And the second list that I want to talk about is the Kirill list from Pokemon's Return. So the Warriors of Dark Gods. Solid army, got, well, treated pretty well in the last updates, I'd say. So it's still really strong. And the list that he plays is, well, a bit different from what he played before, but not that much. I think he haven't played Force One with the Doom Lord before. I usually don't like this unit as much, but in this list it just seems to work out. And I think while Burning Portent is not my favorite choice in the War Dice, if I have Burning Portent, I would prefer to have him running around on horse or something. Then I think if you have the Doom Lord and you cannot pick the Dusk Fort on your Chosen Lord, then it's a really interesting choice to pick the Entropic Aura with the Great Weapon. So here he is really kitted out to kill all the other heroes in the game. Like I don't think that maybe the Omen can deal with that guy, but generally not many want to fight the Sloth dude with the Toughness 6, with the Entropic Aura, with 5-up ward save, with Great Weapon. Really good stuff. So it's just an interesting alternative to the regular Burning Portent stuff. Also, the Helmo is an issue as always, and I think you need to have a lot of practice to play correctly with the Helmo, but you also need a lot of practice to play correctly against the Helmo. And because Warriors of the Dark Gods players usually have much more games with Helmo under their belt than their opponents, then, well, I think the Helmo usually helps a lot with the scenarios. It's kind of trivial to say that, but I think what usually happens is it's really hard to rush the Warrior Dark Gods players. It's really hard to get many points out of him if you want to, because he can just jump around and run from you, even though you would not expect this from an army that is kind of pushing, that it cannot flee. But it's actually really hard to dominate this list. And on the other hand, it's really easy for the warriors to push if they want to. So that's a very nice flexible list. I'm a bit curious about the pick of Alchemy. Rins used it for the ETC as well, and he was really satisfied with that, especially with the Battle Shrine. But for this tournament, it seems well, it doesn't seem weird to pick an Alchemy in general, but for this tournament there are not so many Kingdom of Aquitaine players, there are not so many Warriors players, and there are not so many Empire players as far as I remember. So let's see how this works for him. But Kirill is definitely a very solid player, and I'm sure he will really do well. And now for the showcase of the last list that I want to show you. Oh, I'm sorry. This is not the list. Oh yeah. This is also not the list. Oh. Do I see any difference in those lists? Any sort of difference? Oh, I don't know. There is a magical number on the screen. 3000. I hope you can guess what it is. Okay, so anyways, the link to all the lists should be in the description. Hope you will enjoy taking a look at them. And good luck to everyone during the finals. Unfortunately, my team couldn't make it, which is pretty bad. I really feel bad about not making it. And it actually turned out that it's easier to make it to the finals than to gather the resources to actually get there. And this hobby is getting pretty expensive if you want to play at the very good tournaments, because you have Hereford, you have ETC, you have the Paris finals, then you have events like Milano where you want to visit, and yeah, I think it was just a bit too much for us, at least for some of us. So anyways, thank you guys for watching, and see you next video. Actually, I think we will have the next video will be a bit longer one with kind of new game that Pitaglio is trying to show us. So let's see how will you enjoy that. Cheers, see you in the next one.